Spain is a beautiful and diverse country in southwestern Europe, occupying most of the Iberian Peninsula. It's the fourth largest country in Europe and ranks as the second most populous in the European Union, with over 47 million people calling it home. However, what might surprise many is that despite its size and population, about 70% of Spain is considered empty. This means that vast areas of the country are either sparsely populated or nearly uninhabited. This phenomenon of emptiness in Spain is rooted in a mix of historical, economic, and environmental factors. Historically, Spain's development was concentrated in certain regions, particularly along the coastlines and in major cities like Madrid and Barcelona, while other areas remained rural and less developed. Economically, industrialization and modernization led to a migration pattern where people flocked to urban centers in search of better job opportunities, leaving behind their villages and small towns. Environmentally, some regions of Spain have harsh landscapes, such as arid plains or rugged mountains, making them less suitable for large-scale habitation and agriculture. This nation, with over 47 million people and an economy that truly stands out on the global stage, with a GDP surpassing $1.2 trillion, Spain ranks as the 14th largest economy in the world. What makes this achievement even more impressive is that Spain's economic output is nearly on par with Russia's, a country with 3 times the population and much more land. Despite its relatively modest size, Spain has made remarkable strides, particularly in its infrastructure. One of its most notable accomplishments is its high-speed rail network. Spain ranks second in the world for the length of these rail lines, just behind China. To give some perspective, Spain, which is about the same size as the state of California, has more than 5 times the amount of high-speed rail as the entire United States. This extensive network allows for quick and efficient travel between Spain's major cities, which are mostly concentrated around Madrid, in the center, and along the Mediterranean and Atlantic coastlines. Spain's landscape offers an interesting contrast when it comes to population density. While it's considered a large country by European standards, nearly 4 times the size of England, it has a population that is 9 million fewer than England's. This difference underscores Spain's relatively low population density, which is more than 4.5 times less dense than England's. Much of Spain's interior, especially in the area between Madrid and the coastal cities, remains sparsely populated, leading to what is often referred to as the donut void. This contrast between Spain's bustling, vibrant cities and its vast, empty interior is quite striking. While cities like Barcelona, Madrid, and Valencia are well known for their energy and cultural richness, large portions of the country remain underdeveloped and lightly inhabited. In fact, about 90% of Spain's population, over 42 million people, live on just 30% of the country's land, primarily along the coasts and in a few central cities like Madrid and Zaragoza. The remaining 10%, roughly 4.7 million people, are spread across the other 70% of Spain's land, mostly within the so-called donut void. This distribution highlights the unique blend of urban dynamism and rural serenity that defines Spain, making it a country of both thriving metropolises and tranquil, open spaces. In Spain, there's a vast stretch of land where people are few and far between, with an average population density of just 18 people per square kilometer. This is comparable to areas like Norway or Kansas in the U.S. Some regions within this empty Spain, such as the Serranía Santa Berica, are even more sparsely populated. To give you an idea, the Serranía Santa Berica is about the size of West Virginia or Ireland, but has only around 503,000 residents. In this region, there are only 4 towns with more than 20,000 people, and the average density here drops to about 8 people per square kilometer, similar to New Mexico. This area is the second most sparsely populated in the European Union, having fewer people per square kilometer than even European Russia or the Scottish Highlands. The only place in Europe that's more remote is Lapland in the far north of Scandinavia, where densities range between 2 and 5 people per square kilometer. In the Sardinia Saltaberica, reaching the nearest city from most villages requires a drive of over 45 minutes, highlighting the region's remoteness. One major reason for the sparse population is the region's rugged geography. The Iberian system, a mountain range running through central Spain, makes large parts of the area difficult to live in. The steep slopes, high altitude, and scattered population centers make it challenging to develop and inhabit this land. Additionally, nearby large cities like Madrid, Valencia, Zaragoza, and Bilbao pull people away from the rural areas, contributing to the low density. Spain's mountainous landscape, which includes the Cantabrian Mountains, the Pyrenees and Central System, and the Balearic System, also limits where people can settle. Despite these challenges, Spain has the second highest average elevation in the European Union, just behind Austria. However, mountains alone don't fully explain the sparse population. Countries like Austria and Switzerland, which are similarly mountainous, have much higher population densities. The uneven population distribution in Spain is also tied to its historical and political context. Over the past 50 years, the rural population has shrunk by 28%. This decline began during the 1930s with Francisco Franco's dictatorship, which led to economic stagnation and widespread emigration. After World War II, Spain pursued a policy of autarky, focusing on self-sufficiency, which further isolated the country and slowed economic progress. This historical backdrop, combined with a challenging geography, has contributed to the low population density in many parts of Spain. In 1959, Spain experienced a pivotal change with the introduction of the Plan de Estabilización, a policy implemented under Francisco Franco's rule. This plan aimed to modernize the economy by opening up to liberalization, which led to a wave of rapid industrialization in specific regions, such as the Basque Country, the Northern Coast, Barcelona, and Madrid. This economic shift sparked a mass migration from rural areas to these burgeoning industrial centers, leaving the countryside increasingly deserted and transforming Spain's economic landscape. By the 1960s, Spain's economy was growing so fast it was ranked just behind Japan as one of the world's fastest growing economies. When Franco died in 1975, Spain underwent a significant transition from his authoritarian regime to a more democratic system. Many Spaniards who had moved abroad during Franco's rule began to return, settling predominantly in urban areas that had become the economic hubs of the country. This influx of returnees, combined with substantial immigration starting in the 1990s, further concentrated the population in these industrialized regions. More than 15% of Spain's current population is made up of immigrants, many of whom have settled in cities, thus further depopulating the rural interior. Today, Spain's population growth has significantly slowed down. Between 2011 and 2021, the growth rate was a mere 0.12%, the slowest it has been since the mid-19th century. One major reason for this stagnation is Spain's very low fertility rate, which is among the lowest in Western Europe. This low birth rate is partly due to Spain's minimal family support policies, which amount to only 0.5% of its GDP, the lowest in Western Europe. These factors have contributed to a continuing trend of rural depopulation. For instance, in provinces like Teruel, which is part of the sparsely populated Sardinia Saltaberica, the population has been halved over the past century. Residents in these areas often face difficult living conditions with limited infrastructure. In Teruel, about 40% of the population still does not have access to broadband internet, and the province is known for having only one slow train service. This train gained notoriety when a video showing it being overtaken by a tractor symbolized the region's struggle with rural decline. One of the key reasons behind Spain's low population density in many rural areas can be traced back to its history. During the Middle Ages, Spain was under the rule of the Muslim Moors, who brought with them advanced irrigation techniques and agricultural methods. These innovations allowed farmers to cultivate crops even in Spain's drier regions, transforming the landscape and supporting vibrant rural communities. However, when the Moors were driven out in the 15th century, many of these sophisticated irrigation systems were abandoned. Without the maintenance and expertise to keep them running, the once fertile land gradually became less productive. This decline in agricultural productivity led to the abandonment of many rural areas, as people moved away in search of more viable living conditions. Over time, these once thriving areas became sparsely populated, contributing to the vast empty spaces seen in Spain today. Economic factors have also played a significant role in the depopulation of Spain's countryside. Many of Spain's rural regions are economically disadvantaged, with limited job opportunities and minimal infrastructure. This lack of economic prospects has driven many people to migrate to urban areas, where jobs and amenities are more readily available. Cities like Madrid and Barcelona have become bustling hubs of activity, while the countryside has increasingly become a quiet, underdeveloped landscape. This combination of historical shifts and economic challenges has left a lasting imprint on Spain's demographics. While the cities thrive with opportunities and development, much of the rural interior remains empty and in need of revitalization. Another significant factor contributing to Spain's low population density is its diverse and often challenging geography. The country is home to several mountain ranges, including the Pyrenees in the north and the Sierra Nevada in the south. These mountainous regions, with their rugged terrain and steep slopes, are not ideal for large-scale agriculture or extensive development. The natural barriers created by these mountains have historically limited settlement and development, leaving large areas of Spain sparsely populated. In addition to the mountainous landscape, Spain's climate further complicates habitation in many parts of the country. A large portion of Spain experiences a hot, dry climate, particularly in the central and southern regions. This arid environment can make it challenging to sustain agriculture and create conditions that are less favorable for large populations. The combination of heat and limited water resources can deter people from settling in these areas, contributing to the sparse population density. Environmental conservation also plays a role in Spain's population distribution. The country is committed to preserving its natural beauty, and many regions are protected by conservation laws. These regulations limit development and maintain the pristine landscapes of Spain's countryside. As a result, large tracts of land remain untouched and undeveloped, which contributes to the overall low population density. In summary, Spain's mountainous terrain, hot and dry climate, and strong environmental protections all contribute to the country's uneven population distribution. While urban areas continue to grow and thrive, many of Spain's rural and natural regions remain quiet and sparsely populated, preserving the country's rich natural heritage while preserving challenges for more widespread habitation. The contrast between Spain's bustling cities and its struggling rural areas paints a vivid picture of the country's growing regional disparities. Cities like Madrid are flourishing, emerging as tech hubs with cutting-edge infrastructure and vibrant economies. They are dynamic centers where innovation and opportunity thrive. In stark contrast, many rural areas are grappling with severe depopulation and a lack of investment. Urban centers benefit from modern amenities, thriving businesses, and a steady influx of people and resources, creating a cycle of growth and prosperity. Meanwhile, the countryside faces mounting challenges. As people move to cities in search of better jobs and living conditions, rural towns are left increasingly empty. This exodus has led to declining services, fewer job opportunities, and a sense of isolation for those who remain. For example, in rural regions, it's common to find abandoned homes, underfunded schools, and limited healthcare facilities. These areas often struggle with poor transportation links and outdated infrastructure, making it difficult for them to attract new residents or businesses. In some cases, the lack of investment has led to a downward spiral, and the absence of essential services further discourages people from staying or moving to these areas. Without substantial efforts to rejuvenate and support rural communities, this growing divide between urban and rural life is likely to deepen. Revitalization initiatives, such as improving infrastructure, investing in local businesses, and providing incentives for people to stay or move to these areas are crucial. Addressing these imbalances is essential not just for the well-being of rural communities, but for the overall cohesion and future prosperity of Spain as a whole. If Spain can bridge this gap, it might transform its rural areas into thriving, connected communities and contribute to the nation's success, just as the cities do. Otherwise, the divide may continue to widen, leaving rural areas further behind and perpetuating a cycle of disparity. In conclusion, there are a few key reasons why 70% of Spain remains sparsely populated. A mix of historical events, economic challenges, and environmental conditions, combined with Spain's diverse geography and climate, all play a part. While these factors have led to fewer people living in many parts of the country, they've also helped maintain Spain's stunning landscapes and distinctive cultural heritage.